All right, guys, welcome. Got a fun show here for you today. We're talking about 5 must-have fantasy football players going into this 2023 season. Got 5 names here for you. I'm going to explain why you must have them. Is it the value? Is it the upside? What is it? What is so special about these 5 players that you must have them? Now, again, disclaimer, it's pre-NFL draft. There's a chance that I mention a name here who's in a good position, the draft happens, and I may change my mind to drafting him. So again, this is pre-NFL draft talk. All this content is pre-NFL content right now, as of right now, because the NFL draft hasn't happened. After the NFL draft happens, I lay it all out. I get a way better feel in regards to who's going to eat and who's going to starve this year in fantasy football. And that's when I lay out the 16-round draft solution so you guys can crush your leagues. Now, if you haven't pre-ordered 16 rounds, get it below. I've linked it here on YouTube, or head on over to thefantasyfootballcounselor.com under programs and pre-order right now, guys. Get in. Optimal players to draft in each round, sleepers, breakouts, everything you need to crush your year-long leagues. All right, guys? 16 rounds is the solution. Scrap the draft kits, scrap the cheat sheets, and scrap the outdated magazines. And again, I've been doing this new segment here on social media. It's called Hold On a Second, where I actually go back and look at what the kit sheets just told you last year and how they're riding the player this year. For example, I just did one, Kenneth Walker, right? Everyone had Rashad Penny ahead of Kenneth Walker. It's all documented right here. It's documented, and now they're telling you, oh, you got to get yourself a Kenneth Walker, okay? Why weren't you riding Kenneth Walker when I told everybody in 60 rounds last year to get Kenneth Walker? So again, guys, it's called Hold On a Second. Follow on social to get these fun segments holding everybody accountable. All right, guys? So let's start off with 5. We're going to go 5 players you must have. Let's start off with the first one here, okay? First one, I'm not a big tight end guy. I'm not a big tight end fan. I don't draft tight ends till later. But the first guy here is TJ Hawkinson. I think he's a must-have this year. Let's talk about him. Now, the Vikings have exercised the 5th-year option, right? He is due for a contract year. He's still getting paid $9.39 million this year, which isn't bad, but it's a last year as part of his 4-year deal that he signed worth around $19.8 million. So Hawkinson's incentivized here to thrive. Here's a couple other perks on why I like him. Again, I'm not a big tight end guy, but if I can get this guy for value, and that is the key. Now, in a league where tight ends are worth 1.5 point per PPR, you may want to invest in Hawkinson higher. But I see this guy coming off as early as late 2nd round. That is early for me. 3rd, 4th round, if I get him in the 4th round in a 12-person league, that is phenomenal, okay? Now, there's 107 freed up targets. Let me tell you why it's exciting. Thielen is gone. Now, there's going to be a draft. We're going to see what wide receivers they pick up, or if they pick one up at all. They got KJ Osborne last year, who hoarded away 60 targets, but Thielen had 107 targets. Now, that is freed up. Hawkinson alone last year, with Thielen there, being a guy that Cousins had rapport with for years, still managed to get 129 targets, just under 1,000 yards, 914 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Okay? His peak target per game was in week 16 where he peaked at 13 targets, but I see him averaging around 7 targets per game. Some of those could be touchdowns. So when you look at a tight end that could be consistent via touchdown, via targets, via receptions, via overall contributor to your team where you need to address the tight end position, Hawkins is a must-have. Now, Kelsey, we know, consistent as they come, you're going to have to pay the price. That's up to you. But if you can sneak and get Hawkinson a couple rounds later, you could be getting a gem here, and he's a guy you must have based on the scenario, the situation, obviously the talent, right? He's got to play for a big contract. He's got something to prove. He's got something to show this year. If he stays healthy, you got yourself a good tight end. Okay, guys? Second must-have player, I've talked about him before in a lot of videos, Kenneth Walker. I won't dive into this too much other than the fact that he's young. Rookie year, rushed over 1,000 yards, 1,050 yards, 4.6 yards per carry on 228 attempts. And he didn't get going until week 6. That's all I got to say. 1,000-yard rusher, rookie season, new to the team, 9 touchdowns. A guy that the team drafted in the 2nd round, high draft capital, so they don't need another running back. He is going to be the guy. So he's a must-have for me. Now, you're going to have to pay a first-round pick, probably mid-first round, probably late first round. He's going to be expensive, but when you are looking at the running backs in that, first-round area, you're looking at guys like Austin Eckler, who is now begging for money. He's not getting paid. And I understand why Austin Eckler is not getting paid, because he came into this league as a backup scat back to a very subpar Melvin Gordon. He had the opportunity, right? Good offense. He was a product of the situation. And they know he's older. What, he's 27, 28. He's not like old, right? But he's old enough to say, hey, I'm not going to invest in a mega contract for a guy who was in the league as a backup for several years, did nothing, not a guy that could carry the load, not a true workhorse running back, right? I don't care if he's had a lot of touchdowns. He was a product of the offense. You know, the Chargers had injuries last year. They had injuries to Williams, they had injuries to Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen played like 10 games. They didn't have a wide receiver, a lot of checkdowns. The offensive coordinator loved them. There's a new offensive coordinator now. So we're going off on this Eckler tangent because I'm telling you there's a decline coming. Christian McCaffrey, right, was hurt the 2 years prior to last. Last year had a good year, but the 2 years prior played 10 games last 2 seasons prior to last year. So if McCaffrey's playing 10 games in 2 seasons, and now you're going to draft him first overall again, his prime is done. His peak year is done, right? And he blew his whatever was left last year in load last year. So again, when I go back to Kenneth Walker being a must-have, I like him. I like him better. Again, the youth hunger upside way more than guys like Eckler and McCaffrey who've been in the league for a long time that are being drafted ahead of Kenneth Walker according to Sheep's rankings. Totally ludicrous. Kenneth Walker must have based on some of the points I mentioned. Number 3 here. This one's a little fishy for me, but I like him still because I'm going to get him for value. Finished 14th last year, so you assume that the consensus are going to put him around 14th again, around 10 to 15-ish. Amongst running backs in the rankings. So you're looking at a second, third, maybe if you're lucky, if people sleep on a 4th round pick. But the guy I'm talking about is Najee Harris. Again, 272 attempts last year, which made him 5th in attempts. This is promising. Now, he averaged 3.8 yards per carry, which doesn't excite me. The year before, good year, right? Finished as a top 5 running back. 3.9 yards per carry. Not good, but he rushed for 1,200 yards in his rookie year. Last year, a bit down. 1,034 yards, 7 touchdowns. It looked lackluster. And again, the 3.8 yards per carry is not appealing to me, looking non-explosive. But what is appealing to me is the value. If I can get him as part of a robust RB strategy as my RB3, maybe even RB2, but RB3, I'm getting a potential workhorse. Now, again, this is pre-NFL draft. I'm assuming the Steelers, Tomlin, they believe in their workhorse back. I still assume, based on the youth, based on a contract year coming soon, I think this is a great opportunity for Najee Harris, who has to really prove himself. And this is that opportunity where, there's a bit of a dip here, and you can capitalize on the value of Najee Harris and get yourself a workhorse running back. Again, overly excited? Not really, but all signs are pointing to a phenomenal year out of Najee Harris. Had to bring that up to you guys, okay? Look for the value. Number 4 here. Is Chris Olave. Now, Chris Olave, rookie year last year, looked pretty good. I'm not even going to talk about how bad his quarterback play was. Wasn't a good situation. Now in comes a guy I don't like in reality, but for fantasy could make him really relevant. Chris Olave. Michael Thomas is back, which is good. That solidifies a slug at the wide receiver 2 position, who I'm not expecting a lot from. So you don't have to really worry necessarily about a rookie wide receiver being drafted or someone dynamic coming in out of free agency to really steal the shine. But Chris Olave is going to be the wide receiver 1. 119 targets last year, 72 receptions, 1,042 yards, 4 touchdowns. Now, this is really interesting and exciting because the 4 touchdowns shows that there's way more to be had. I don't think this guy's even scratched the surface. He's got a quarterback that's going to be consistent and consistently throwing to him. So that's very important as well. Then I got to look at the value. Where can I get this guy? If I can get him in the 4th round and beyond, I'm getting a solid wide receiver 1 with massive upside, massive youth, great opportunity, a wide receiver 1 for immense value after I go robust RB. And again, this is what stuff I explain in 60 rounds, whereas people just say, oh no, get yourself a wide receiver 1. And there's no running backs later to get, and you're messed up, right? There's tons of value at wide receiver later. Chris Olave is an example of one. We're going to have to see where he falls. His ADP is going to climb. He's not going to be as cheap as you think, but if you can get him for value, amazing. Absolutely amazing. I mean, 3rd round even seems like a steal for me for Olave, okay? There is some upside there. And number 5 here for a must-have player, this guy, I have some question marks, but let me give you some reasons why I like him, okay? The guy I'm talking about is Justin Herbert. Now, last year screwed a lot of fantasy teams, including one of mine. He didn't do too well on my team. I had other players carry this one particular team. I had him drafted, and it was a good reason why. His value was good last year. Not really excellent good, but it was like 5th round or something like that. And he finished second amongst quarterbacks in 2021. Now, I'm not one to copy and paste and say, oh, they did good last year, they're going to do good this year. But with quarterbacks, you get pretty good consistency. Now, 2021, 38 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. It looked good. Second in attempts. Last year, still second in attempts, really good. His touchdowns dropped from 38 to 25. That was huge. But understand, Williams only played 13 games. Allen played only 10 games. Okay, a lot of checkdowns to Eckler. He had that one game, his ribs were banged up. I don't know how healthy he was the games after that, right, where he trucked through. It was a bad year. It was a mediocre year. It wasn't a great year. I think he finished he just finished outside the top 10. So Herbert this year, this guy's got to play, and he's going to get paid because we're in a league where crappy quarterbacks are getting paid. Baker Mayfield's a start. I don't know what to say. Derek Carr, after 9 years of doing nothing, not winning a playoff game, is a starter. You look at Justin Herbert, he's going to get paid, but he still has to do something. He has to show that his value, that he can really get that mega contract. I think it's going to be a big year for Herbert. Coming off a down year, no way but up. We're going to have to see what the wide receivers are going to draft someone else because the other guys can't stay healthy. Allen's in the twilight years of his career. Is Keenan Allen going to continue to be solid? I doubt it. I really do. I think he is, again, at the bottom end of his career. They need to draft an ace wide receiver. They need to give him more to deal with. Now, there is Bijan Robinson leading around. Bijan, whatever you want to call him. He could be a rookie running back that they may want to pick up. Again, this is why they don't want to ink up Austin Eckler, is because they want to get a true workhorse running back. While doing that, beef up the wide receiving core a little bit and give Herbert everything he needs to succeed. Okay, Eckler's not the long-term solution. Keenan Allen's not the long-term solution. Mike Williams can't really stay healthy. So when you're looking at a must-have quarterback, he's going to be good value. He's going to be decent, but I think you're going to get the Herbert from 2 years ago. I really do. Am I drafting him? I'm looking at maybe if I can get Trevor Lawrence, maybe a round or two after. If I can get him for value, there's some upside there. But always remember, and I say this in the 60 rounds, back up your quarterback no matter what with an upside quarterback. Going back the year where Mahomes had a breakout year, he was my backup quarterback. He broke out, and I crushed it, right? I got him in the 10th round that year, the year that Mahomes broke up where everyone's sleeping on him, right? The year that Josh Allen, people were sleeping on him. They had Baker Mayfield ahead of Allen. I was like, no. Allen's a better quarterback. People thought I was nuts. Put this guy in an institution. He's nuts. No. I was like, Allen, I'm going to get him as a backup. Allen crushed it that year. So it's about knowing when to hold him, know when to fold him. But I think from a consistency standpoint, Herbert's going to crush it. All right. Hawkinson, Walker, Najee, Olave, Herbert. Based on what I said, based on value, still very early. These guys are must-have players. All right, guys, make sure you guys subscribe, thumbs up, drop a comment below, and get 16 rounds, guys, to crush your leagues, rolling out the off-season content. We'll talk soon, guys. I appreciate you. Stay here, stay glued. Going to keep coming at you with amazing content that actually is going to help you win your leagues. No copy and paste here. We'll talk soon. I'm out.